Every time you sit down to work, a powerful force pulls you away. Distractions, excuses, hesitation. You tell yourself you're just lazy, but what if that's not true? What if procrastination is actually a deeper, more complicated psychological struggle? Today, we'll dive beneath the surface to uncover the real reason you keep procrastinating and how you can finally break free. Procrastination is an emotional response, not laziness. Procrastination is often mislabeled as laziness, but psychology reveals it's actually an emotional response rooted in discomfort. When faced with a task, our brains instinctively seek pleasure and avoid pain. Procrastination acts as a defense mechanism, a way to escape feelings like anxiety, boredom, or self-doubt tied to that task. This means procrastination is less about willpower failure and more about managing unpleasant emotions. You aren't lazy. You're avoiding the emotional pain linked to starting or completing the task. Understanding this shifts your perspective from self-judgment to self-compassion. Research in affective neuroscience shows that the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain, often overrides the prefrontal cortex's planning and self-control. When stress or fear flares, it hijacks your focus and you delay action to protect your emotional well-being. By recognizing procrastination as an emotional signal, you can begin to address the underlying feelings instead of blaming yourself. This is the first step in breaking free from the vicious cycle of avoidance and guilt that traps so many of us. Fear of failure. The hidden blocker beneath procrastination often lies a powerful fear of failure. This fear is deeply rooted in the psyche, tied to how we perceive ourselves and how we imagine others will judge us. Failure threatens our self-esteem and can trigger shame, a profoundly painful emotion. Psychologically, when we fear failing, the brain activates protective mechanisms. Avoiding the task altogether feels safer than risking judgment or disappointment. This creates a paradox where procrastination becomes a way to maintain self-worth, albeit temporarily. The challenge is that this fear is often unconscious. We don't always realize why we stall. We just know we feel stuck. Bringing this fear into conscious awareness allows you to confront it directly. Working through this fear means redefining failure, not as a reflection of your value, but as a natural part of growth and learning. When you do this, procrastination loses its power, because you're no longer trying to protect a fragile self-mean. Instead, you choose courage and action over avoidance. Perfectionism's paralysis. When good enough feels impossible. Perfectionism is a silent but deadly cause of procrastination. When your internal standard is impossibly high, the fear of not meeting it creates paralysis. The thought it has to be perfect or not at all traps you in endless preparation, hesitation, and self-criticism. Psychologically, perfectionism is linked to deep insecurities and a fragile sense of self-worth. It's an attempt to control outcomes to avoid criticism, failure, or rejection. This need for control backfires by creating anxiety and indecision. You might spend hours refining details or avoid starting because you believe the result won't live up to your own or others' expectations. This cycle drains energy and creativity, ultimately fueling procrastination. Overcoming this means shifting your mindset to embrace imperfection as essential to progress. Accepting good enough allows you to start, learn, and improve rather than freeze. This freedom is a vital step in breaking the hold of procrastination. The overwhelm trap, how anxiety freezes action. Overwhelm is a common trigger for procrastination. When a task feels too big or complicated, anxiety can spiral, making it hard to know where to begin. This paralysis by analysis is your brain's way of protecting you from stress, but it stops progress in its tracks. From a psychological standpoint, overwhelm floods your working memory and decision-making capacity. This cognitive overload makes it difficult to prioritize or focus. The result? You push the task aside to relieve immediate discomfort. The emotional weight of overwhelm often comes with a sense of helplessness, making you believe the goal is unattainable. This defeats motivation and deepens procrastination. Breaking out of overwhelm involves breaking tasks into manageable steps, setting clear priorities, and practicing self-compassion. Learning to tolerate discomfort without avoidance builds your resilience and capacity for action. Lack of connection to purpose. Why motivation dies. Motivation isn't just about discipline, it's about meaningful connection to what you're doing. When your work feels disconnected from your values or purpose, Procrastination sneaks in because the emotional fuel to drive you is missing. Psychologically, purpose provides intrinsic motivation by activating reward circuits in the brain, releasing dopamine that energizes action. Without this, tasks feel like chores, triggering resistance. If you find yourself procrastinating, ask if the task aligns with your deeper goals or values. Lack of purpose creates a disconnect that drains energy and focus. Reconnecting with why a task matters, or reframing it in the context of your bigger vision, can reignite motivation and reduce procrastination. This alignment transforms obligation into inspiration. The role of self-worth, feeling unworthy to succeed. Procrastination is sometimes rooted in a subconscious belief that you don't deserve success or happiness. This low self-worth creates internal sabotage because achieving goals feels threatening or unfamiliar. Psychologically, this is tied to early experiences and core beliefs about yourself. When you feel unworthy, you might delay action to avoid facing the possibility of success and the changes or expectations it might bring. This form of procrastination is deeply painful because it clashes with your desire for growth and acceptance. Healing requires cultivating self-compassion and challenging limiting beliefs. When you nurture your self-worth, procrastination loses its grip, and you move toward your goals with confidence and self-respect. Breaking the cycle. Psychological tools to overcome procrastination. Escaping procrastination requires both understanding and practical tools. Techniques like mindfulness help you observe procrastination triggers without judgment, reducing their emotional power. Cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) strategies allow you to challenge and reframe negative thoughts that fuel procrastination. Setting SMART goals breaks overwhelming tasks into achievable steps. Building routines and accountability creates structure that supports consistent action. Most importantly, cultivating self-compassion prevents the guilt spiral that reinforces procrastination. The journey isn't about eliminating procrastination overnight, but developing a healthier relationship with yourself and your work. With patience and persistence, you can transform procrastination from a prison into a signal guiding you toward deeper growth. Procrastination is not your enemy. It's a signal from your mind and heart that something deeper needs attention. When you learn to understand and work with these emotional truths, you reclaim your time, your focus, and ultimately your life. If this video helped you see procrastination differently, hit like, subscribe, and start your journey to true action today.